What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Men at Work as we continue through Cargo. Big shout out to Adam who kicked this playlist off. And the next tune is No Sign of Yesterday, which is interesting, right? Yesterday, in the way humans measure time, is very recently in the past. There's a lot of proximity. It is not all that far back. Even for those who are very young, a single day is a small unit of time, comparatively speaking. Much shorter than a week, even shorter than a month, and vastly shorter than a year, never mind a decade, and so on. So for there to be no sign of yesterday is very interesting, because I would suggest it has vanished, it has disappeared, it is no longer observable, whereas oftentimes events which took place only yesterday, they feel very close, they're still very vivid. Now, I do have a bad short-term memory, so sometimes if you ask me what I did 10 years ago, I might be able to tell you in detail, but if you ask me what I ate for dinner yesterday, I'd be like, what did I eat yesterday? So I suppose it depends on the brain in question. Oh, Luca, don't sit there. She's in between my path to the starting of the track. But yes, I am curious about the title. There's a poetry to it, but also an opacity, because it seems counterintuitive. Let's give it a listen. This is Men at Work. The song is No Sign of Yesterday, and it's from their 1983 album Cargo.
Pull out the stop plugs, drain all the waste. Who needs it anyway? Fill all the big holes, leave no trace. No sign of yesterday. Wash all the dishes and clean up my plates. No sign of yesterday. I stare at the photographs of your dark face. No sign of yesterday. Out in the yard was such a lovely place. It's where we used to play. Inside, outside, you can feel and taste. No sign of yesterday. And I can hear you calling. I can hear you calling. I can't hear you anymore. Metal ships are falling. This old car keeps stalling. Always seems to be the way. Pick up the pieces and dig out the dead. Then you can go to bed. As night as the stealer ran, time is the test. No sign of yesterday.
I'm in awe. That was masterful. That might be my favorite Men at Work song I've yet heard. I mean, it could go another couple minutes. The sax is wailing. Colin is doing all sorts of crazy dynamic vocalization with his vocals. The tune had this mixture of like new wave, keyboard, down-tempo rock, but also a bit of a classic rock feel to it. Very epic, and lyrically I'm intrigued. Okay, and I'm going to premise this by saying, if you didn't know, over on my Patreon I've done a mini song documentary about Land Down Under, and Colin Hay is the one they're talking to over the course of this mini documentary, which is like 6 minutes long, and I think it's been on my Patreon long enough that it should be fully publicly available now. But he talks in that song, and although maybe I understood this somewhat intuitively, I didn't have a clear sense. That song he conceives as being, in one way, a love letter to Australia, but in particular, a critique of the corporatization, the hyper overdevelopment of natural areas in Australia, and the sort of the hollowing out of what makes Australia so special and so wonderful by his eyes. So it's more than I realized, and it is again a critique of the like hyper industrialization and the corporatized attitude of making everything sort of cookie cutter and imposing or infringing on some of the areas that are truly unique to Australia. I feel like there's something similar happening here. At first I'm thinking like a woman, or something like the idea of, I look at this picture and it's, there's no sign of yesterday, and it's both visual and I can't hear you calling, so also the audio, the sound of someone's voice, even if it was very recent, it's like he can't even hear it anymore. But then he's talking about the past, it's where we used to play, which makes me think of a clever poetic reference to time, the past is a foreign country, we don't live there, but the idea of the places we grew up, the experiences we had, they're so close and yet they're so far away. And the more the song went on, I thought he was making a similar point as to Land Down Under, that everything is becoming it doesn't have the character that it used to, because the powers that be are enforcing this sort of vision of conformity, and again cookie cutter, and making everything corporatized, and we're losing the actual distinction and character that makes this place, that makes yesterday so special, that made it something that was worth holding on to and worth remembering. And so the idea that there's no sign of yesterday, it's he grew up and turned around, and the Australia he knew, the Australia he loved, is no longer there. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, maybe I am being influenced by that song documentary about Land Down Under, but it felt like that was more or less the point being made here, and that it was a broader point and a more social and cultural, even political type of point, beyond what I thought in the first minute or two of the song. But yeah, the drums, cycling double time ride cymbal, the keyboard moments, the guitar, and then Colin singing the lines normally, so to speak. Although even before we get to what I'm about to talk about, I was going to say in this outro, I just love his voice. He has a really distinctive and enjoyable voice. But then he starts kind of changing the rhythm of some of the lines, improvising, and then he's extending, and he's sort of playing with the vocals. Then he starts that fluttering, fragmented vocal delivery, and he really just showed us the full arsenal of his vocal abilities. Incredible. As I said, a contender for my favorite song I've ever heard from them, and that's saying something, because I like pretty much everything I've heard, and a few tunes in particular. So a really, really good one. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.